Vice President Harris continues to dominate the 2024 election as we enter the third day of the Democratic National Convention, and the momentum is so bad that multiple Fox News hosts are publicly ringing the alarm, very often to the faces of Republican politicians, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. Again, we begin the third day of the Democratic National Convention, and typically conventions carry a wave of momentum for both parties, the Republican National Convention, Democratic National Convention. Problem for Republicans is Vice President Harris was already the recipient of a boom, a momentum prior to that. And it looks like that momentum is carrying, potentially even increasing, but certainly carrying on. And Fox News hosts who are nominally on the side of Republicans who want them to win elections are trying to sound the alarm to get it through to Donald Trump to reverse course. And I want to play a clip here, one of a few, but we're going to start with Neil Cavuto, one of the few reasonable Fox News hosts or vaguely reasonable Fox News hosts. He's talking to Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican senator, who, for all the smack talking about vice president, doesn't seem to understand that Harris is currently winning the election. So Cavuto tries to give him a reality check.
Yet she continues to gain in the polls. Now, maybe not robustly, but she leads in a good many more than she used to. She leads in a majority of the battleground states. That could change, to your point, Senator. But this is resonating. And her other pitch is, whatever I'm doing for you, the middle class, and finding ways to help those who have kids. And yet.
So again, this reality check is so bad that it's happening on Fox News, the use of the nominal safe space for the Republican Party. And again, something there that I say a lot on my channel. He tries to throw the Republicans a bone. It's possible for this to change. It's likely to be a very close competitive election. The Republicans enjoy so many institutional advantages, both in terms of like formal political institutions, like the Electoral College. Obviously, that's a big one. Gerrymandering is another one that tends to favor Republicans, et cetera, and so forth. But the media ecosystem generally favors Republicans because they're graded on a curve and higher expectations are imposed on the Democratic nominee. But at the moment, Republicans are losing. 538 and other polling aggregates, they have Vice President Harris overall in the lead by about 3 percentage points, still within the margin of error, but she is consistently dominating. If you look at the recent polls, it's Harris +3, Harris +2, Harris +2, Harris +4, Harris +5, Harris +4, Harris +4. You have to go all the way back to RMG Research, which was surveyed August 12th through 14th, to find one lone Trump poll. Not just in terms of the national head-to-head, but also, as Cavuto says, in the battleground states themselves, the states that, whether we like it or not, under our current system, electorally matter more than others. Sad that we're living in a system where states matter more than others electorally because it should be equitable. But even there, the vice president is ahead. There's a recent YouGov poll, which is just not just head-to-head, but in terms of like a three-way race with RFK Jr., just absolutely damning for Trump. Folks, I mean, I want Trump to lose, so I'm delighted that he seems to be in this, like, constantly, the inertia and the momentum of his self-sabotage just continues, and that's fine by me. Hell yeah, let's add to it. But it is fascinating to me that as a student of politics, and I know many of you are as well, that Trump is so stubborn he will not reverse course. The Wall Street Journal, a right-wing outlet, they are also sounding the alarm. Election polling shows that Harris's gains over Trump opening paths to Electoral College victory. Suffice to say, the presidential election is close, says the Wall Street Journal. Harris leads Donald Trump by 2.7 percentage points in the 538.com average of public polls, by 1.4 points in the Real Clear Politics average, and by less than 1 point in the Cook Political Report average, which uses a smaller set of polls. But her lead in most polls is within the margin of error, and she trails in many of the polls of battleground states. So the better way to analyze polling might be to look at what avenues to victory suggests are available to each candidate. With President Biden as the nominee, most analysts said he had a single path, winning 3 quote-unquote blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, plus a single electoral vote awarded in the congressional district that includes Omaha, Nebraska. Biden trailed so substantially in Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, all of which he won in 2020, that most analysts said the blue wall was his only plausible course, a narrow and high-risk proposition for Biden. Today, Harris has plausible chances in all 7 of the main battleground states. Though she trails in some of them, her gains still position her to push for multiple paths to victory. Harris now trails Trump by Georgia by 1 point in the Real Clear Politics average, much better than Biden's 4-point deficit at the time he ended his candidacy. And listen, let's talk about Georgia for a second. Remember, Georgia is a purplish state. It has a wildly popular Republican incumbent governor, Brian Kemp, who is awful, by the way, less awful than many other Republicans because he wouldn't go along with Trump's big lie and attempt to steal the 2020 election, but still a guy who, I mean, my God, the Georgia, as we speak, Republicans in Georgia are under this mission, this crusade. Mark Elias is sounding the alarm about it. Mark Elias, a Democratic election attorney, talking about how easy Georgia is trying to make it to purge voter rolls. They are setting up this website where you can go to this website and request the purge of another person's voter rolls because you think they moved or whatever, right? But I mean, you want to talk about easy for abuse. Brian Kemp is that sort of guy, right? But he's a wildly popular Republican incumbent, and Trump has been picking fights with Brian Kemp publicly, consistently, for weeks, even when he's rallying in Georgia. He's even insulting Brian Kemp's wife because Kemp wouldn't go along with the 2020 election steal. Like, what? It's so stupid. I mean, again, I'm happy for it. Oh, just it's amazing. But again, as a student of politics, I'm just like, why would you do that? Unless you want Democrats to win, in which case, hey, please continue. But it's so bad. President Biden won in 2020, won Georgia, and Trump, despite, again, so many advantages, is within the margin of error, only leading Vice President Harris by 1 percentage point. And he's picking a fight with a popular incumbent governor. This man's so stupid. I love it. She's made even bigger gains in North Carolina and Nevada, trimming Biden's deficits of more than 5 points at the time he withdrew to only about 1.3 percentage points. I live in North Carolina. It is a purple state, another state where Republicans have bent over backwards to try to maximize their institutional advantages because they don't feel that they can compete in even terrain, but whatever. Man, I'd love it if the vice president were to flip North Carolina. Similarly, she has wiped out Trump's 4.5-point lead in Pennsylvania and turned a deficit into a lead in Michigan, according to RCP, which, by the way, tends to skew more conservative. Harris's gains in North Carolina and Georgia are particularly important as they have the most electoral votes of any battleground after Pennsylvania. Winning either one would be important in opening up additional combination of states to carry the Electoral College. So again, folks, this is the Wall Street Journal sounding the alarm for Trump, and he's ignoring it. Please, Donald, continue to ignore. I mean, Donald, why would you listen to these losers? I mean, my God, you're such a winner. Don't listen to the Wall Street Journal. But seriously, I mean, I can't imagine the frustration it must be to be a MAGA Republican. Although, again, I shouldn't say that. MAGA Republicans very often tend to be cultists and true believers. But to be a Republican in Trump's service who has to pay lip service to this nonsense and indulge his stupidity, I mean, I don't have sympathy for them because they chose that, right? And there's so many off-ramps to jettison Trump. You could have convicted him in his second impeachment. You could have, not bent the knee. Kevin McCarthy bent the knee after the impeachment effort failed months later. There's so many opportunities. The Republican primary, Republicans have made their bed, and they should be politically punished as a consequence of this at the ballot box. They should lose every election and basically be put into an electoral timeout. Like, hey, Republicans, if you ever want to become a loyal opposition conservative party again that just wants to, debate about whether the marginal tax rate should be this percent or this percent, what corporate tax rate should be, what reasonable gun control legislation looks like, whatever. But as long as you want to be an authoritarian cult of personality, you're going to lose every damn election in perpetuity. I would love that. And I hope that this is what we're starting to see. Last clip I want to show you is another prominent Republican on Fox News, former Republican campaign manager Karl Rove, again, the Darth Sidious of Bush-era politics, and the last guy, somebody had to point out to me, the last campaign manager to preside over a Republican campaign where his candidate not only won the Electoral College, but won the popular vote. President Bush won the popular vote, not in 2000, he lost it to Al Gore, but in 2004, upon re-election, he not only won a re-election because of the Electoral College, Karl Rove managed to preside over a Republican campaign that won a majority of votes in the popular vote. So people should heed his advice. This is what he has to say.
Karl, last night you said that Democrats are falling in love and in line. Have you ever seen anything like it? No, this is normally what Republicans do is fall in line, but Democrats normally fall in love, and they're doing both this time around. I want to come back to some.
Yes, and that is absolutely dangerous to the Republican Party. Republicans, again, they benefit from so many things. It's American affirmative action for the GOP. I mean, they have so many political institutional advantages, media ecosystem, which is very favorable to them, and even the psychology behind it. Republicans are, by and large, much more eager to throw principle aside to line up behind a candidate. My God, look at Trump. Trump is not a conservative. Trump is an ideologically inconsistent populist. He was a Democrat for years, then Republican, then independent. He doesn't care about policy or ideology. He cares about himself, and that's it. And that's why people have, and despite these things, evangelical conservatives are throwing their lot behind somebody who is about as far from Christ as a person can possibly be, but they don't care because it's just a means to an end. And what Karl Rove is opining now is that Democrats, this heterodox big tent that we have, where we're always prone to like infighting over various things, and often for substantive reasons, right? But for politically inexpedient ones. What we're seeing now is a coalescing where we are falling in line. And it seems that people are really, really genuinely having affection for this particular ticket, the Harris-Walz ticket. So as long as we can keep that momentum, and that's a big if, it will not carry itself. We have to actively make that choice every damn day. If that's the case, our chances of winning this election radically increase. Love it. Love the panic from Fox. Love the fact that Republicans are ignoring it. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.